Isaiah Thomas, the king of the fourth, who was betrayed by Boston. In 2015, Isaiah Thomas was 5 feet 9 inches of pure heart, a player categorized as too small, doubted on all sides, and yet overlooked in the grand scheme of NBA. However, things changed for him, which caught the world off guard. In his peak season in 2016-17 with the Boston Celtics, he stats 28.9 points, 5.9 assists, 46.3% FG, and 90.9% FT. He was third in the league in scoring and fifth in MVP voting, which did earn him the nickname King of the Fourth for his explosive closing performances. In his most recent season, in 2021-2022, with the Los Angeles Lakers, he stat 8.4 points, 2.6 assists, 33.7% FG, which was a shadow of his former self, bouncing between 10-day contracts. Isaiah Thomas was the last pick in the 2011 NBA draft, who went from forgotten bench player to an MVP candidate. He became the symbol of hope, hustle, and possibilities. But in the cruelest twist, the same team that he gave everything to gave up on him first. Isaiah Thomas was sabotaged by the franchise he helped resurrect, the Boston Celtics. His NBA journey was never supposed to happen. In a world of 7-footers, Isaiah barely scraped 5 feet 9 inches. But from day one, he played with a fire that couldn't be measured in inches. He was the shortest player in the league and was drafted last in 2011. By the time he arrived in Boston in 2015, the Celtics were rebuilding, a team stuck between eras without an identity. Then Isaiah came on board, and in just a few games off the bench, he turned boos into cheers. In his first full season, he averaged 22.2 points and became the heart of Brad Stevens' system, fast-paced, fearless, and unrelenting. Isaiah wasn't just scoring, he was changing the tides of things. He carried a franchise, a city, and later, something even heavier: pain. On April 15, 2017, a day before Game 1 of the Celtics playoff series against the Chicago Bulls, tragedy struck. Isaiah's younger sister, China Thomas, died in a car accident at just 22 years old. That night, he dropped 33 points while crying during warm-ups. The Boston team rallied around him. During the 2017 Eastern Conference Finals against the Cavaliers, Isaiah's hip began to give out. The Celtics medical staff called it a bruise, which gave Isaiah the motive to keep playing because the team needed him and the city believed in him. But what he didn't know was that the injury he was nursing was more than a bruise. It was a torn labrum, a serious injury that required rest and not heroism, as he was sacrificing for the team. Then, they traded him. That summer, the Celtics shipped Isaiah Thomas, as he was injured, emotional, and exhausted, to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Kyrie Irving. There was no warning nor a second chance. It was just business for the team as usual. In Cleveland, Isaiah's hip injury worsened, and things didn't get better for him. His confidence was fading before his own eyes. He averaged just 14.7 points on 37% shooting, and by 2018, he was traded again, but this time to the Lakers. From MVP candidate to trade filler, all within a year. The surgery that followed helped his pain, but not his career. He bounced between the Nuggets, Pelicans, Wizards, and Mavericks on short-term contracts. The once feared closer, the man who scored 28.9 points per game, couldn't even stay on a roster. When asked years later if he regretted playing through that hip injury, Isaiah paused and replied that, "I gave Boston everything I had. They gave me my first chance to lead, and they also took it away. But I'd do it again." That's the cruel beauty of Isaiah Thomas's story. He was too loyal for a business that rewards betrayal. Kawhi Leonard, the silent revolt that shook a dynasty. For 2 decades, the Spurs were the NBA's model franchise. 5 championships, 0 drama, and a system that ran smoother than clockwork, until it didn't. At the center of that crack in perfection was a quiet superstar, Kawhi Leonard. He didn't talk much, didn't smile much, didn't sell sneakers or stir headlines. In his rookie season, 2011-12, in San Antonio Spurs, Kawhi stats 7.9 points, 5.1 rebounds, and a 1.3 steals per game. He had shot 49% from the field, earning himself the all-rookie first-team honors. In his breakout season in 2016-17, San Antonio Spurs, he stats 25.5 points, 5.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and a 1.8 steals per game. He averaged 48.5% FG, 38% from 3, 88% FT, top 3 MVP finalist, and Defensive Player of the Year finalist. He was drafted 15th overall by the Indiana Pacers in 2011. He was immediately traded to San Antonio in exchange for George Hill. It was a quiet move that would soon echo through NBA history. Under the leadership of Greg Popovich, Kawhi transformed from a raw defender into a two-way machine. His hands were absurdly large, which earned him the nickname the Claw. He locked down LeBron James in the 2014 NBA Finals, winning the Finals MVP at just 22 years old. The 2016-17 season was peak for Kawhi as he led the Spurs to 61 wins, averaging 25.5 points on both ends of the floor. In Game 1 of the 2017 Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors, Kawhi was unstoppable, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 11 out of 19 shooting, until one moment changed everything. He went up for a jumper like every other attempt, but this unfortunate attempt left him hinged. Zaza Pachulia slid his foot under Kawhi's landing space. By the time he was landing, Kawhi rolled his ankle, screamed in pain, and that very moment took away everything he had built. The Spurs blew a 23-point lead, lost the series, and something inside the organization shifted. His injury wouldn't heal, which left Kawhi warming the bench. Team doctors called it a quad strain. Kawhi called it something worse, a degenerative condition. But instead of believing him, the Spurs began to question him. The tension started quietly. Rumors began leaking. Anonymous reports saying Kawhi's camp was difficult, that he was distant, that he didn't trust team doctors. Behind closed doors, Kawhi sought a second opinion from his own medical team, who advised rest and rehab away from the team facility. The locker room was divided. The franchise wanted Kawhi to play. Kawhi's body and his doctors said no. By summer 2018, the unthinkable happened. He demanded a trade, and the Spurs, in a decision that shocked the league, sent him to the Toronto Raptors for DeMar DeRozan and spare pieces. San Antonio found it difficult to believe Kawhi was broken, that his health and reputation wouldn't recover. A year later, Kawhi hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy, leading Toronto to its first ever NBA championship and winning Finals MVP again. He dethroned the Warriors, who'd ended his Spurs run. It was redemption served cold and silent. DeMarcus Cousins, the wasted prime of a generation's big man. Before the league became obsessed with three-pointers and stretch fives, there was a time when the paint was ruled by power, precision, and pure emotion. There was one player who embodied that chaos and brilliance more than DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie. He was the most dominant big man of his generation, a walking 25 and 12 machine, feared and fierce. But behind his numbers and passion was a tragic pattern, which is a franchise that never matched his heart, never built around his talent, and ultimately broke him. At his peak season in 2016-17 at Sacramento Kings, 27.8 points, 10.6 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.3 blocks per game. He shot 36% from 3, which was unheard of for a center at the time, with 5 consecutive seasons averaging over 24 points and 10 rebounds. DeMarcus Cousins came into the league as a lottery pick out of Kentucky. He was no doubt raw, but gifted. At 6'11", he had the footwork of a guard and the strength of a tank. From his day one, he bullied defenders in the paint, ripped rebounds out of the sky, and attacked with the emotion of a man who wanted to be remembered. However, in Cousins' first 6 seasons, the franchise went through 6 different head coaches: Paul Westphal, Keith Smart, Mike Malone, Tyrone Corbin, George Karl, and Dave Jorger. It was 6 systems, 6 philosophies, but 0 stability. He argued with refs, led the league in technical fouls multiple times, and let his emotions spill onto the floor. But behind those outbursts was frustration, because no matter how hard he played, his team didn't match his level of fire burning inside of him. From 2010 to 2017, the Kings never had a winning season, not one. And yet, in that chaos, Cousins kept producing like a monster. In 2015, he had 24.1 PPG, 12.7 RPG. In 2016, he averaged 26.9 PPG and 11.5 RPG. And in 2017, he recorded 27.8 PPG and 10.6 RPG. By 2016, Cousins was finally finding rhythm. The Kings had hired Dave Jerger, and for the first time, the offense made sense. Boogie was evolving into a playmaking big, hitting threes, dishing assists, and carrying the team through sheer willpower. He wanted to stay. He said it publicly. He told reporters, "I want to bring Sacramento back. I'm loyal to this city." And the franchise told him they were loyal too, that they were building around him. Then came All-Star Weekend 2017. Cousins was in New Orleans, giving interviews, smiling, talking about the future. Moments later, a reporter told him he'd just been traded mid-interview to the New Orleans Pelicans. No phone call, no warning, no dignity. The team had shipped him out for Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, and a draft pick, a painfully lopsided deal. When he found out, Cousins just stared blankly and said, "It's a business, man. That's all I can say." The trade broke him, not just physically, but mentally. In New Orleans, Cousins finally had help. Anthony Davis, another generational big man. The two formed a terrifying duo, averaging a combined 57 points and 24 rebounds per game. It felt like redemption from the chaos and betrayal. Then another disaster struck. In January 2018, Cousins tore his Achilles tendon, one of the worst injuries for any basketball player, especially a big man. He'd been averaging 25.2 points, 12.9 rebounds, 5.4 assists, the best numbers of his career. But after that injury, he was never the same. By the time he left, his body had already paid the price for it all. And in the end, loyalty meant nothing. This channel isn't for casual fans. Subscribe now if you want the unfiltered, ugly truth behind the headlines. Don't forget to like and share this video. James Harden, the system that ate its own star. When we talk about offensive genius in basketball, only a handful of names come close to James Harden. A lefty magician who turned dribbles into daggers, fouls into free throws, and isolation into art. But behind those MVP trophies, those 50-point nights, and those viral stepbacks lies a darker story, a franchise that built everything around him, and in doing so, built a trap that destroyed them both. In his peak season in 2018-19, Houston Rockets averaged 36.1 points, 7.5 assists, 6.6 rebounds, 2.0 steals per game. At his MVP-level dominance, one of the highest scoring averages since Michael Jordan. In 2012, James Harden was traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Houston Rockets. At that time, he was just the third option behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, a crafty lefty with a beard and full of potential. But the moment he landed in Houston, he exploded. In his opening night, he averaged 37 points against the Pistons, followed by 45 points against Atlanta. In 1 week, the NBA realized something. James Harden wasn't just good. He was the future. Houston built around him instantly, giving him the ball, the floor, and the green light. And he rewarded them with buckets, buckets, and more buckets. Underneath the highlights, something deeper was brewing. There was a difference in the execution on the court. Houston GM believed Harden was the perfect weapon for that theory. The team went all in, with no mid-range shots, no traditional centers, no ball movement unless it ended in Harden's hands. The result? A revolutionary offense. Harden averaged more isolation possessions per game than entire teams. In the 2018-19 season, he took over 1,000 isolation shots, more than double any other player. It was tagged genius and madness. In 2018, they faced the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Up 3-2 in the series, just one win away from dethroning the dynasty. Then Chris Paul, Harden's co-star, pulled a hamstring. Game 7 came, and the Rockets missed 27 straight three-pointers, the most in NBA history. They lost. That night summed up the franchise's philosophy. If the system fails, keep shooting. If it breaks, double down. And Harden was left carrying the blame. He had 32 points and 6 assists, but the world only remembered the misses. Houston's system had no plan B, and when the machine broke, there was no heart left in it. After 2018, the Rockets panicked. They traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, who was Harden's old friend. But it didn't fit. 2 ball-dominant guards in the same system? It was chaos. Then came the small ball experiment, trading away Clint Capella, their only true big man, and starting 6'5" PJ Tucker at center. It worked for a few months, then imploded in the playoffs. By 2020, Harden was exhausted from all of the trial and error. The franchise that had once empowered him now had no direction. Westbrook wanted out. Daryl Morey resigned. Coach Mike D'Antoni left. And suddenly, Harden was alone, the last piece of a failed revolution. In December 2020, Harden walked into a press conference after a loss and said, "We're just not good enough. I've done everything I can." He looked tired, disconnected, almost broken. A week later, the Rockets traded him to the Brooklyn Nets, ending a 9-year partnership that gave him everything except the one thing he wanted most, a ring. Houston fans called him selfish, but behind the scenes, Harden had begged the front office for help. He wanted defenders, role players, balance. Instead, they gave him isolation and analytics until it consumed him. James Harden will go down as one of the greatest offensive players in NBA history. 3-time scoring champion, 7 times All-NBA First Team, MVP 2018, and 24 career 50-point games. But for all his greatness, Harden never truly played free. Damian Lillard, loyalty that led to nowhere. In the modern NBA, loyalty is rare. Superstars chase rings, join super teams, and build legacies through convenience. But not Damian Lillard. He stayed. He believed. He gave Portland everything: his talent, his prime, his trust. And in the end, the franchise he carried for a decade left him standing in the rubble of what could have been. Way back to 2012, Portland drafted Damian Lillard with the 6th overall pick out of Weber State. A small school guard who was supposed to be a solid contributor, not a franchise savior. But Lillard had other plans. In his debut, he dropped 23 points and 11 assists and never looked back. He wasn't just good, he was the main guy. Clutch shots, deep threes, and that unshakable calm made him the face of Rip City. By his 3rd season, he was a 2-time All-Star and had one of the most iconic playoff moments in NBA history. The buzzer-beating, series-ending dagger over Chandler Parsons and the Houston Rockets in 2014. Year after year, Damian Lillard poured his soul into a franchise that refused to evolve. The Blazers had Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge, a duo with championship potential. But when Aldridge left in 2015, the team didn't rebuild. They retooled with role players, hoping Lillard's greatness would mask their mediocrity. And for a while, it did. The Blazers' best playoff run came in 2019 when they reached the Western Conference Finals. But even that run ended brutally, with a 4-0 sweep by the Warriors. Still, Lillard stayed. When the media said he should leave, he said, "I'm built differently. I don't run from the grind." And this response itself became his curse. In 2021, after yet another first-round exit, Lillard dropped 55 points against the Denver Nuggets, one of the greatest playoff performances in NBA history. The 2022-23 season was the final straw. Lillard averaged 32.2 points and 7.3 assists, shooting a career-high 46.3%, his best offensive year ever, and yet, the Blazers finished 13th in the West. No progress, just another wasted masterpiece. He'd spent over a decade carrying Portland, only to realize he was running in circles. In the offseason, he finally asked out, and after months of tension, the Blazers traded him, not to his preferred destination Miami, but to the Milwaukee Bucks. No farewell tour, no emotional send-off, just business as usual. After 11 years, 7 All-Star appearances, and unshakable loyalty, they shipped him off like a contract number. Damian Lillard's Portland resume is legendary. 19,376 career points, the first in Blazers history, 7x All-NBA team selections, 75 career 40-plus point games, and 2 of the coldest playoff buzzer beaters ever. But for all his brilliance, he never had a real chance to win it all, because his franchise never built one. They treated his loyalty like leverage. Tracy McGrady, the superstar left alone. Before injuries, before the heartbreak, before the what-ifs, there was Tracy McGrady, a 6'8" smooth-scoring phenom who made basketball look effortless. In his prime, he wasn't just a star, he was a walking highlight reel. But behind those poster dunks and effortless jumpers was a man stuck in a system that couldn't match his ambition. In his breakout year, 2000 to 2001, at the Orlando Magic, McGrady averaged 26.8 points, 7.5 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and 1.5 blocks per game. His peak season in 2002 to 2003 at the Orlando Magic, he averaged 32.1 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1.7 steals. Tracy McGrady entered the NBA in 1997 straight out of high school. He was raw, tall, skinny, athletic, but had glimpses of brilliance. In Toronto, he played behind his cousin Vince Carter, who became the face of the franchise. By 2000, McGrady had seen enough. He wanted his own team. He wanted to prove he wasn't just Vince's cousin. So, he signed with the Orlando Magic, who promised him a partnership with Grant Hill, another superstar free agent. Two All-Stars in their prime, ready to take over the East. By 2003, he led the league with 32.1 points per game, becoming the youngest scoring champion since the ABA-NBA merger. He could pull up from deep, dunk through defenders, and score on anyone. From 2000 to 2004, his teammates included names like Pat Garrity, Darrell Armstrong, Andrew DeClercq, and Drew Gooden. They were good players, but not the kind that win championships. The most painful moment came in 2003. The Magic faced the Detroit Pistons in the first round. Orlando shocked everyone by going up 3-1 in the series. McGrady, who was just 23 years old, told reporters, "It feels good to finally be in the second round." But there was a problem. The series wasn't over. Detroit stormed back to win 3 straight games, eliminating the Magic in a humiliating way. That quote haunted McGrady for years, a symbol of premature celebration, though it really reflected desperation, because deep down, he knew it was his best chance. After the 2003 season, frustration boiled over. McGrady had given everything, with 28.1 PPG over 4 seasons, 4 times All-Star, 2 times scoring champion, and a 3 times All-NBA first team. He was doing everything right. In 2004, McGrady led the league again with 28 points per game, but the Magic finished with the worst record in the NBA, 21-61. Imagine that, the best player in the league on the worst team. That summer, McGrady had had enough. He requested a trade, and Orlando granted it, sending him to the Houston Rockets for a package that included Steve Francis and Coutinho Mobley. In Houston, McGrady found a new partner in Yao Ming, and for a while, it looked like redemption. But then, the injuries came, back spasms, knee surgeries, and shoulder tears. The same fate that had derailed Grant Hill now haunted him. By 2009, he was done. The high-flying phenom had become a man battling his own body. He never made it past the first round of the playoffs in his entire career, not because he wasn't good enough, but because his teams never were. Tracy McGrady retired with career averages of 19.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 4.4 assists. Numbers that don't even begin to capture how unstoppable he was in his prime. Orlando's failure became his burden. The Penny Hardaway story. And for me, Penny Hardaway was destined to be the next great NBA legend, until the same team that built him up tore him down from the inside. He was drafted 3rd overall in 1993 by the Golden State Warriors. However, Penny was immediately traded to the Orlando Magic for Chris Webber, a move that would shape the future of both franchises. By his second season in 1994-95, he had skyrocketed his performance to 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, 4.4 rebounds, and a trip to the NBA Finals alongside Shaquille O'Neal. He had all eyes set on him, with his 6'7" floor general title, who could score, pass, and glide like no one else. The fans were always going go, go, gaga for Penny, and found every means possible to compare him to Magic Johnson. Fast forward to the year 1995. The finals loss to the Houston Rockets was supposed to be the start of a dynasty, but life has other things in place. Instead, it was the beginning of a slow implosion. Behind the scenes, Orlando's front office was failing to manage its 2 superstars, Shaq and Penny. They let local media run wild with the headlines, calling Shaq overrated and too soft. And when free agency came calling, they lowballed him, offering less than what the Lakers had on the table. Shaq had his head up and walked away. In an overnight move, the Magic handed the entire franchise to a 24-year-old Penny Hardaway. There was no detailed structure, support, or rest. They believed in going with the flow. In 1997, he began experiencing sharp swelling in his left knee. The doctors warned the team that he needed rest, but Orlando's management had other plans. They pushed him to return early to save the season. However, what happened next was a blow to the face to both Orlando and Penny. The rest, which the doctor had instructed but neglected by the team, had led to a catastrophic knee injury that required multiple surgeries and robbed him of his athleticism. And instead of protecting their star, Orlando rushed him back again. He underwent 3 surgeries in less than 2 years. By 1998, the Magic locker room was fractured. This time, Penny had grown frustrated with the organization's lack of care. He even called out team management, saying, "They used me up." On the truthful part, he wasn't lying. The franchise that was supposed to preserve his legacy had turned him into a scapegoat for their own bad decisions. And in 1999, they traded him to the Phoenix Suns, ending what could have been one of the greatest careers of the 90s. In Phoenix, Penny flashes off his old brilliance. He averaged 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in his first season, and helped lead the Suns to a stunning playoff upset over the Spurs. But his knees were never the same. The damage Orlando had allowed to happen in his early days of his career had already sealed his fate. From 2000 onward, Penny's stats declined sharply. He averaged 12 points, then 9, then 5. By 2007, the player who was once destined to take the torch from Michael Jordan was out of the league. The Carmelo Anthony story. Carmelo Anthony entered the NBA in 2003, drafted 3rd overall by the Denver Nuggets, in one of the most legendary draft classes ever. He was right behind LeBron James and Darko Milicic, and right before Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh. As a rookie, Melo averaged 21 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 2.8 assists, leading the Nuggets back to the playoffs for the first time since 1995. By his 4th season, he was a walking bucket, averaging 28.9 points per game, one of the most dangerous scorers in basketball. From 2003 to 2011, he gave Denver 7 All-Star level seasons, 4 top 10 scoring finishes, and consistent playoff appearances. However, in February 2011, Carmelo Anthony was traded to the New York Knicks in a massive blockbuster deal. He arrived as the savior, the Brooklyn-born superstar who would bring Madison Square Garden back to life. And he did. From 2011 to 2014, Melo averaged 26.6 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, led the Knicks to 54 wins in 2013, their best season in 2 decades, and dropped 62 points in a single game, setting a Madison Square Garden record. He played through injuries, through roster changes, through front office drama, and still gave fans a beautiful basketball game every night. Then came Phil Jackson. When Phil Jackson took over as team president in 2014, it looked like things would finally stabilize. But instead, it became a Cold War. Phil wanted to install his triangle offense, a system that hadn't worked since the early 2000s. Melo, on the other hand, wanted something more modernized, to build a team that could compete with the Warriors era. Instead of finding middle ground, Jackson targeted him publicly. The Knicks, the franchise Melo had carried on his back, had turned its megaphone on him. In 2017, the end came quietly. Carmelo Anthony was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The same player who gave everything to his home city was shipped out like an inconvenience. And the Knicks? Oh, you thought they continued winning. Well, they went right back to losing. Years later, when Melo returned to MSG in a Portland jersey, the crowd gave him a standing ovation. Not for the wins, not for the banners, but for surviving the storm. The Grant Hill story, the star Detroit broke. Hill was drafted 3rd overall in 1994 by the Detroit Pistons. Grant Hill came into the NBA as a generational talent, 6 feet 8 inches, versatile, graceful, and unselfish. In his rookie season, he averaged 19.9 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, becoming the first rookie ever to lead all players in All-Star voting. From 1994 to 2000, Hill averaged 21.6 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 6.3 assists, numbers eerily close to what LeBron James would later average at his peak. By the 1999 to 2000 season, Hill had become Detroit's everything. He was their scorer, playmaker, leader, and cultural icon. But that kind of load came with a cost. Late in that season, he began feeling severe pain in his left ankle. The Pistons medical staff told him it was a bone bruise, nothing serious. He was advised to tough it out, And because he was loyal, he did. Hill played through excruciating pain during the final stretch of the season, even as his ankle deteriorated. The team needed him for the playoffs, and Hill, ever the professional, refused to quit. But what Detroit's doctors didn't tell him, or failed to detect properly, was that his ankle wasn't just bruised, it was fractured. In Game 2 of the 2000 playoffs against Miami, Hill's ankle finally gave out. He collapsed in pain, the Pistons were swept, and his career trajectory took a dark turn. After the playoffs, Grant Hill became a free agent. The Pistons knew he was hurt, yet downplayed the severity of his condition to suitors. Orlando Magic, dreaming of pairing Hill with a young Tracy McGrady, offered him a massive 7-year, $92 million deal. But Hill's ankle was far from healed. Within months, he underwent 5 surgeries, one of which led to a life-threatening staph infection that nearly killed him. Doctors had to cut open his leg and use a titanium plate and 6 screws just to stabilize his foot. He later revealed that he developed a 104-degree fever, with his wife told to prepare for the worst. All because Detroit pushed him to play through a fracture to help the team. Hill's time in Orlando was a nightmare. From 2000 to 2007, he played only 200 games total. In Phoenix, Hill became a defensive anchor and veteran leader, a far cry from the high-flying playmaker of the 90s, but still a player of immense value. From 2007 to 2012, he averaged a solid 12.1 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game, proving that his basketball IQ and professionalism were timeless. Hill never got that championship he deserved, but his resilience and grace earned him something deeper: respect. Even with all the pain and setbacks, Grant Hill retired in 2013 after 19 seasons, a career most players dream of. He finished with 16,135 career points, 6,060 rebounds, and 4,252 assists, earning 7 All-Star selections and a Hall of Fame induction in 2018. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The DeMar DeRozan story? The loyalty that wasn't returned. Drafted 9th overall in 2009 by the Toronto Raptors, DeMar DeRozan wasn't the most hyped rookie. He wasn't a prodigy or a generational prospect, but he was that hungry player. By the 2013-14 season, DeRozan was averaging 22.7 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 4 assists, earning his first All-Star selection and helping Toronto reach the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. At his peak with the Raptors, from 2014 to 2018, he averaged 23.7 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game, becoming a 4-time All-Star, a 2-time All-NBA player, and the face of the franchise. But stats alone couldn't measure what DeMar meant to Toronto. He was the heart of the city, the first superstar who didn't want to leave. Toronto had seen stars come and go, from Tracy McGrady to Vince Carter, Chris Bosh. They all left for bigger markets and brighter lights. But DeRozan? He stayed. When asked once why he never tested free agency, he smiled and said, "I am Toronto." He wasn't exaggerating. He embraced the city's culture, weather, and fans. He played through injuries, through playoff heartbreaks, through everything. The 2017-18 season was supposed to be Toronto's big breakthrough. DeRozan averaged 23 points per game, led the team to a 59-win season, and clinched the number 1 seed in the East. But luck wasn't on their side again. They fell to LeBron James and the Cavaliers in the playoffs. It was a crushing sweep that ended their championship dreams. Behind closed doors, Raptors management, led by Masai Ujiri, decided that the DeRozan-Lowry core had reached its ceiling. Ujiri promised DeRozan he wouldn't be traded during the offseason. However, DeMar believed him. He told the media, "I've been loyal. I gave everything. This is where I want to retire." But just days later, while on vacation, his phone rang. It wasn't his agent, it wasn't his coach, it was the news. He had just been traded to San Antonio for Kawhi Leonard. There was no warning, no conversation, no respect. The franchise he had built with sweat and loyalty had traded him in the dead of the night. In 2019, just 1 year after the deal, Kawhi Leonard led the Raptors to their first ever NBA championship. Toronto celebrated, the city erupted, but DeRozan watched from afar. He later said something that touched the hearts of many. "I sacrificed everything for that team, and when they won, it hurt. because I wanted to win there. Life went on, and DeRozan didn't crumble. In San Antonio, under Greg Popovich, he reinvented himself, thereby focusing on playmaking and leadership. And in 2021, he joined the Chicago Bulls, averaging 28 points per game in his first season, earning all NBA honors again, and proving that he still belonged among the big dogs in the game. On the new journey, he found peace. He became an advocate for mental health, speaking openly about depression, breaking the stigma around vulnerability in sports. And that is the dark side of the game, because in basketball, talent can take you to the top, but ego, betrayal, and bad decisions can drag you right back down. Every stat tells a story, but the ones they hide, those are the ones that really matter. So before you go, smash that subscribe button. Not for clout, not for hype, but so you never miss the truth they don't want you to hear. Next time, we'll peel back another layer of the game we love and expose the moment another superstar was built up, broken down, and betrayed by the very system that made them. This is the dark side of basketball. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and remember, every highlight has a shadow.